Welcome to this episode. I am Kai Uwe Faust, singer and songwriter of Heilung. Today, I want to talk about one of our most powerful songs, Alfadhirhaiti. You can find the first performance of the song on the recording of our first live ritual, Lifa. Heilung's live album Lifa was recorded during our debut public performance at Castlefest in the Netherlands on August 5, 2017. This event marked the band's first live appearance and was described as a ritual, reflecting the immersive and theatrical stage presence. The performance was captured in high-definition video and audio, later released as a full-length live album and concert film. It was initially self-released by Heilung in late 2017 and subsequently reissued by the label Season of Mist in various formats. But this very song is also the first piece on Heilung's debut studio album Óðinn. It was initially self-released on June 2nd, 2015. This release introduced the band's distinctive blend of ancient texts, reconstructed instruments, and ritualistic soundscapes, drawing inspiration from Northern European Iron Age and Viking Age tradition. Following the album's growing popularity, Óðinn was reissued by the label Season of Mist on April 20, 2018. But I started writing this song already in 2012. Alfadhirhaiti translates to "He is called All-Father," a reference to Odin, the chief deity in Norse mythology. Who is Odin? Odin, one of the most complex figures in Norse mythology, is often seen as the All-Father of the gods, associated with wisdom, war, death, and poetry. His earliest conceptual roots may trace back to Indo-European and Bronze Age sky or storm deities, showing parallels with figures like the Vedic Varuna or the Germanic Wodanas. By the time of the Roman Empire, Tacitus identified a Germanic god resembling Odin with Mercury, emphasizing his role as a psychopomp and knowledge seeker. He is the All-Father. He is the breath in the bone, the mind behind the eye, the name behind every mask. The great architect of our world, the sorcerer king, the spear wielder, the war winner. But before he was the god of gods, he was something else. He was the sun. And like so many suns in the myth, he would rise only by blood. This is the tale of how the world was made. Not with love, not with order, but with murder. A father's blood, a son's blade, a corpse turned into continents. In the beginning, there was nothing. No sand, no sea, no soil, no sky. Only the yawning void, Ginnungagap. To the north, the realm of ice, Niflheim. To the south, fire, Muspelheim. And where they met, the frost melted. From that primal steam, life crawled. The first was Ymir, a being not quite God, not quite beast, something more, something worse. He was vast, the size of continents, and hermaphroditic, sweating out life from his armpits, breeding frost giants from his legs. He drank from the cosmic cow, Óðinn, who licked the ice into the shape of gods. From her tongue came Buri, and from him Bor, the father of Odin, and his brothers, Vili and Vei. They were not yet gods, but they had will, they had vision, and they had a problem. Ymir, their grandfather, the great body, the world beast, was a thread, a mindless engine of chaos, birthing frost giants that would soon fill the void. Odin and his brothers watched as Ymir snored and the glaciers trembled. They saw his skin bubble with monsters. They saw his breath poison the stars that were not even placed yet. And then they chose. They would kill the father. Not just kill him, sacrifice him. What happened next is told in blood and bone. They rose against Ymir in the Ginnungagap, armed with nothing but the raw power of creation and a god's resolve. The battle was no fight, it was slaughter. They tore into him. They slew the giant Ymir, says the Völuspá, the prophecy of the seers. From his blood the sea and lakes they made. The earth was formed from his flesh, and from his bones the rocks, the trees, from his hair, and from his skull the sky. His blood gushed in rivers, so much that it drowned nearly every frost giant. The seas today are his hemorrhage, the oceans his leaking veins. They flayed him open. His flesh, spread across the void, became the land we walk on. His bones, snapped, broken, ground into gravel, became mountains. His teeth, torn from blood-dyed gums, became the cliffs. His skull, enormous, dripping, was lifted on 4 great dwarves, Norðri, Suðri, Austri, Vestri, to form the dome of the sky. And from his brains, those twitching last pulses of thought, they made the clouds. Let that sink in. Every time you look up at the clouds, you are staring at the dying mind of a murdered titan. The very air, the breath we take, leaks through a crime scene. Why did they do it? Because Odin knew the old had to die for the new to rise. Ymir was not just a being. He was potential without direction. Endless, chaotic, unshaped. Odin brought form. From death, he made purpose. From the corpse of his grandfather, he forged a world. But the job wasn't done. From the maggots in Ymir's flesh, Odin created the dwarves, gifted craftsmen, keepers of secrets, masters of runes and metal. Then, walking along the shores of their freshly made world, Odin and his brothers found 2 pieces of driftwood, ash and elm, and from these dead sticks they made life. Ask and Embla, says the Edda. They gave them no breath, nor mind, nor warmth, until Odin gave breath, Vili gave mind, and Ve gave form. And thus man and woman were born, from trees standing on the corpse of a god. Ymir's death is not just myth, it is the oldest murder. It is the cosmic crime that made creation possible. We walk on skin, we eat from blood, we look up at the skull, and in our minds, somewhere deep, we remember that all began not in peace, but with the will to power, the will to kill. The world is not a gift, it is a sacrifice. Odin made sure of that. Odin, the All-Father, is not a god of peace or justice in the human sense. He is a god of war, wisdom, and fate. As the god of the slain, he welcomes fallen warriors into Valhalla, regardless of their allegiance. Odin does not choose sides in the petty squabbles of mortals. He seeks the brave, the ferocious, those who die with blood on their blades and fire in their hearts. Whether a warrior dies defending his homeland or pillaging a distant shore, if he meets death with courage, Odin may claim him. But Odin does not rule alone over the fate of the dead. His mighty wife, Freyja, goddess of love, sorcery, and battle, claims half of those who fall in combat. Her hall, Folkvanger, is just as glorious as Valhalla, and it is said that she, not Odin, gets the first pick of the slain, Where Odin gathers warriors for Ragnarök, Freyja may gather them for reasons known only to her: honor, beauty, devotion, or some mysterious magic of the Vanir. Together, they embody the totality of death in battle. Odin with his ravens, his wolves, and the mead hall of endless warfare. And Freyja with her choosers of the slain, the Valkyrias, and her silent fields beyond the sunset. Between them, all the brave dead find a home. In Norse texts, like the Poetic Edda and Prose Edda, Odin emerges as a one-eyed wanderer who sacrificed his eye for wisdom and hung himself on Yggdrasil to gain runic knowledge. He is a god of paradox, both a warlord and a seeker of inner truth. Centuries later, Odin's archetype resurfaced in modern thought. Carl Jung interpreted him as a symbol of the collective unconscious, embodying primal forces of transformation. Friedrich Nietzsche, in The Case of Wagner and other works, saw the return of pagan instincts in European culture, indirectly invoking Wotan as a symbol of irrational, chthonic power. Together, these perspectives reveal Odin not just as a mythic figure, but as a timeless archetype of human complexity. What does Odin mean? And his older names. The name Odin comes from Old Norse Óðinn, derived from Óðr, meaning fury, inspiration, or ecstasy. Óðinn thus signifies the furious, or the inspired one, reflecting Odin's complex nature as a god of war, wisdom, and poetry. In Old English, he appears as Woden, from Proto-Germanic Wodanas, which shares the same root, Wodas, meaning rage or poetic inspiration. These names trace back to Proto-Indo-European wet, to blow, inspire, or spiritually excite, linking Odin or Woden to ecstatic states and divine possession. Fitting for a deity who bridges war, wisdom, magic, and madness in Germanic mythology. The song Alfadhirhaiti is built from some of Odin's many names, collected from ancient texts like the Thulur, compiled by Snorri Sturluson, and from other skaldic poetry. Each name reveals a different side of this complex god, his wisdom, his rage, his sacrifice, his magic. The concept of using many names for one being is deeply rooted in the poetic device known as Kenningar. Kenningar are metaphors used in Old Norse and Old English poetry to replace simple words with more descriptive phrases. For example, a sword might be called a wound hole, or the sea, the whale road. In the case of Odin, his names themselves act as Kenningar. They are layered descriptions, often hinting at myths and powers that would be understood by listeners of the time. In the 13th century, the Icelandic historian and poet Snorri Sturluson compiled lists of poetic synonyms known as the Thulur. These lists included the many names of gods, giants, weapons, and other mythological figures. Many of the names we chant in Alfadhirhaiti come directly from these sources. We chose to present them as a litany, a ritualistic invocation, similar to how ancient Norse worship and storytelling might have sounded. The lyrics of Alfadhirhaiti move through a combination of name lists and ritualistic chants. In the first part, we invoke objects connected to Óðinn. Draupnir, the Dripper, Ódinn's magic gold ring that reproduces itself. Geiri and Freyja, greedy and ravenous, Ódinn's two wolves. Sleipnir, the Slippy, Ódinn's eight-legged horse. Gungnir, the swaying one, Ódinn's spear. Then follows the ritual chant. Hegole, 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 Viu Bigoitze. Hail, 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 I dedicate to the spear. Gegoge, Gegoge, Gegoge Ginuga Helja. Gegoge, 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 I yell resoundingly. This chant is repeated, building in intensity. The words are based on Proto-Germanic reconstructions, similar to inscriptions found on ancient weapons. We then move to a naming invocation, listing Ódinn's names along with their meanings. Haugen, Mánen, thought and memory, his ravens, og Alfadhirhaiti, and he is called Alfadhir. The chorus continues with a list of names and their meanings. I do not claim to present you the only possible or fundamentally correct translation. After all, we are talking about the master of deception, about the deity of paradoxon. And here I share a secret. Some of the Kenningars used are made by me in 2012, collaborating with the Medieval Norse Studies in Berlin. The all-wise internet provides now different translations than my originally carefully researched and cross-checked intent. Fimbul Thulur, mighty speaker. Fjölnir, wise one. Udur, striver. Ulfrögni, wolf ruler, Thekur, welcomed one, Thulur, pale one, Onski, the granter of wishes, Ofnir, inciter, Rognir, chieftain, Ráðir, redhead, Grimnir, hooded one, Gundlir, wand wielder, Lefrair, famous lord, Hangatur, god of the hanged, Njolstapi, nebulizer, Náðvindur, opposer of peril, Jolfúðr, Yule father, Jafnhaur, even high, Atriðir, attacking rider, Sitgrani, long-bearded, Sigfaðir, father of victory, Dugir Gjafi, giver of courage, Dresvarpir, god with painted shield, Bileigur, flashing eye, Bifliði, shield shaker, Markvísir, leader of the crowd, Miðvitnis, confidant, Londungur, shaggy cloak wielder, Launhirdir, guardian of secrecy, Ugr, terrible one, Iungur, son of Ugr. Each name is rich in imagery and carries multiple layers of meaning. By chanting them, we weave the complex identity of Óðinn from individual threads. It's not one god, but a multitude contained within one being. The song Alfadhirhaiti contains 32 names of Óðinn, the All-Father. Each name follows the ancient poetic device of stave rhyme, also known as stavrim, and each begins with a different rune sound from the younger futhark, the 16 rune system used by the Norse from the 8th century onward. Each name is a key, each key a door into a god too vast for a single face. These are not just names. They are invocations, shouts in the dark, echoes of breath and bone from another world. But where did these runes come from? To answer that, we must go back. Back not just to the Viking Age, but deeper. To the tree, the gallows, and the blood. According to the Havamal, the words of the High One, preserved in the Poetic Edda, Óðinn hung himself from the great world tree Yggdrasil. He sacrificed himself to himself, wounded by his own spear, in a brutal rite of death and revelation. I quote, "I know that I hung on a wind-battered tree, 9 long nights, wounded with a spear, dedicated to Óðinn, myself to myself, on that tree of which no man knows from where its roots run. Havamal, stanza 138. He was not aided. He had no food, no water. He was suspended between the worlds, neither living nor dead. In agony, he stared into the abyss of mystery. And then it came. None gave me bread. None gave me drink. Downwards I peered. I took up the runes. Screaming I took them. Then I fell back. Havamal, stanza 139. He screamed. This was not enlightenment. It was a primal tearing of the veil. The runes did not really whisper. They shrieked their secrets into his soul. Thus the runes were born, not invented, but revealed, ripped from the flesh of the cosmos. The earliest runes appear around 150 CE. This script, known as the Elder Futhark, consisted of 24 characters. Unlike the Greek or Latin alphabets, the runes were more than letters. They were ideographic, each one charged with a sound, a name, a meaning, and a magical force. The rune Fehu stood for wealth and cattle. Ansus invoked the divine breath, the ancestral voice. Tivas was the rune of Thulur, the sky god, associated with justice and sacrifice. These were not just tools of literature. They were carved into weapons, combs, shields, stones, and bones. Each stroke of the knife was a ritual. The act of writing was a form of casting, a conjuring. As the Germanic tribes moved and evolved, so too did the runes. The younger futhark emerged by the 8th century, primarily in Scandinavia. Reduced to 16 runes, it was paradoxically used for a more complex language, reflecting shifts in sound and culture. And with the Viking expansion, runes covered Europe like a storm. They appear in England, in the Frisian lands, and most dramatically in Sweden. Here we find many runestones. The Swedish countrysides holds over 2,000 known runestones, most from the 10th and 11th centuries. They were not just gravestones in the modern sense, they were monuments, public displays of memory, honor, and power. Often painted in vivid reds and ochres, they tell of voyages to Miklagard, of brothers lost, of bold deeds. They were also deeply spiritual, invoking Thor, or even Christian crosses, showing the complex, hybrid world of late Viking spirituality. Take, for instance, the stone from Ramsund, which depicts the legend of Sigurd, the dragon slayer, in both text and image. Or the Yelling stones in Denmark, called Denmark's birth certificate, where King Harald Bluetooth boasts of converting the Danes to Christianity, but he still uses the old script of Odin. Runes endured, even as the gods changed. But nowhere did the runes echo longer than in Iceland. In this volcanic land of saga and shadow, writing held power. The Norse who settled there brought not only axes and songs, but their runes. And though Latin script took hold, the runes were never entirely forgotten. In fact, they transformed. By the 13th century and beyond, Iceland produced a body of esoteric texts known as galdrabækur, magical grimoires. These included staffs or galdrastafir, symbols drawn with runic elements used for protection, healing, revenge, and summoning. One such symbol is the Ægishjálmur, the helm of awe, said to instill fear and protect warriors. Another is Vegvísir, meant to guide the bearer through storms and darkness. These were not simply Norse nostalgia. These were living magical systems, practiced and feared. The church banned them, practitioners were burned, and still the runes endured in secret. So when we chant Alfadhirhaiti and name Odin 32 times, we are doing more than just reciting names. We are tracing runes through sound. We are breathing magic back into form. Each name aligns with a rune. Each rune with an aspect of Odin, the magician, the wanderer, the war god, the corpse on the tree. And through it, we remember that runes are not static. They are doors, carved in wood, scratched into stone, etched in memory. They began in sacrifice. They endured in stone. They whispered from grimoires. And now they sing again. Our inspiration for the structure of Alfadhirhaiti also comes from physical artifacts, particularly the Kragohul spear shaft. This spear shaft was found in Denmark, dating back to the 5th century CE. It bears a runic inscription that reads, "I am named Earl Muha, Ansugizal's son. I cry a roar resoundingly. I invoke hail in the spear." These are the words referenced by Ruben Terlau and echoed in our song. They are not just poetic, they are performative. These runes, known as bind runes, compress multiple symbols into single characters. On this shaft appears the repeating triplet Ga Ga Ga, much like the Andley bractet in the UK, which spells Ge Go Ge, using Anglo-Frisian runes. Though their literal meanings remain uncertain, Their purpose as invocations, battle cries, blessings, awakenings, rings. These utterances are ancient technologies of sound and intent. And this concept is not unique to the Norse world. In Eastern traditions, sacred naming is also a profound ritual. The Shurangama mantra in Mahayana Buddhism lists 108 names of the Buddha, just as Hindu texts chant the 108 names of Shiva. These names are not merely descriptors, they are invocations. Sound itself becomes a sacred key. Much like Odin's many names, each syllable carries power, frequency, memory. The number 108 recurs across traditions. 108 beads in a mala, 108 names, 108 sacred movements. To chant a name is not simply to describe. It is to call, to awaken, to become. In these cultures too, the word is more than language. It is spirit in vibration. From the bind runes of Kraguhul to the Namavali, from Ga 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 to Om Namah Shivaya, from Odin to Shiva, from Alfadhir to Tathagata, humanity has always known this. Sound is a threshold. Through it, the finite touches the infinite. Whether a battle yell or a mantra, each call is a return to the source. Heilung's philosophy is not about reenacting history, but about invoking the spirit behind it. We call our performances amplified history because we believe the echoes of the past are not dead, but sleeping. By breathing life into the old names, the old chants, and the old symbols, we awaken them. In Alfadhirhaiti, every repetition of the names, every chant to the spear, is a step deeper into the ancient consciousness, where gods walked among men and words could shape the world. Thank you for listening. May the many names of Odin remind you there's always more to see, more to seek, and more to become.